All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Ephraim. Today's date is January 2nd, 2023, and I'm back at you with another one. This is more of a what I call a thinking out loud segment where I came across something and I wanted to kind of speak on it. Um, and this is I'm gonna be 55 years old here in a couple of weeks, God willing, and for as long as I can remember, as African American, we always said and felt that Africans just do not like us. We never could understand why. And no one knew why, right? Um, and we know, we would say that sometimes it would be half jokingly, we'd say it, whatever, but we'd be like, well, what do they have to hate us about? I mean, we're the ones that went into slavery, this and that. Of course, not realizing a lot of Hamitic Africans, went through slavery as well, but that's another topic. I want to deal specifically with the idea that many of my people here in America has had as well for years, that Africans do not like us, or Africans do not consider us African, quote unquote. The list goes on. Well, I'm gonna to all my new subscribers, even if you've been there for a while, I'm gonna break it down to you and get specific in why a lot of Africans do not care or do not like African Americans. Okay, I'm gonna play a clip for you, and now then just let me in the spirit of fairness and transparency, this African man who's being interviewed, he does not speak for all of Africa. Okay, the same as one African American man or woman doesn't speak for all of African Americans. However, what's true is that a lot of Africans feel this way. Okay, the thing is, the problem is, my people, so-called African Americans, never knew why. Well, this is the video. I'm going to explain to you in detail why a lot of Africans do not like us. The truth is, they never have. That's why they had a big part in our enslavement. Okay, but before I even get into all of that, let me play this clip of this African being interviewed, being completely honest, and I'm gonna come back with the rest of my commentary in this presentation.
We don't want them here.
What? They're your brothers
They're not our
and
brothers.
sisters.
They're not our brothers.
They
If
are.
you were born in America and have lived there for 300 years, you're no longer African. Those are Americans. We don't need them.
We don't need
They
them
were
to develop.
taken away, unfortunately, but they are Americans. We will develop by ourselves. Yeah, we have the capacity, we have the will, we have the resolve. We don't need them. No.
I totally agree with you. Thank
And there we go. I mean, again, let me be very clear that that particular African gentleman does not speak for a whole continent of African people. However, what he said is the shared sentiment among a lot of Africans that, and they do. I mean, they feel that way. So I want you brothers and sisters with all this pro-Africanness and all this African this and African that, and walking around with your dashikis and your black power fists. I want y'all to really understand something because, first of all, you have to understand and know that there is a distinction between the peoples. Just because we're melanated does not mean that we're related. It does not mean that we're from the same nation or the same bloodline. That's a stigma. That's just, we have to get away with that and do away with that. Okay, all so-called Africans, which are from the bloodline of Ham, are not our brothers. Okay, and the truth is, now y'all listen to me clearly. The truth is, we look at these stories like Roots and how the enslavement and the capturing of our people was kind of romanticized. A bunch of white people going over in Africa with nets and this and that. But what they did subtly mention and point out is that there were Africans helping those white men entrap and enslave our people. As a matter of fact, a lot of Hamitic Africans, they knew then as they know now that we're not the same people. Well, what do you mean by that, Doctor? What do you mean we're not the same people? Meaning we are not from the same genetic bloodline as them. All right. Of the three men that helped repopulate the world, Shem, Ham, and Japhet, those Africans that talk and think like that man who just did that little interview, they are Ham. They are Hamitic. They are from the bloodline of Ham. And we Negroes slash E1B1A are from the bloodline of Shem. Now, for many, therein lies the misconception and confusion, thinking that we all brothers and we all this. No, we're not. We're not. Okay? If we are Shemites and they are Hamites, that alone is a distinction between the nations. How do we know that we're not related? How do we know that we're not from the same nation? Well, our DNA tells the truth. Hamitic Africans are E1B1B, and Shemitic Africans, which would be us, which is E1B1A from the nation of Israel, the bloodline of Jacob. That, what I just said, is a genetic fact. So once we get past the romanticizing of how our people even got into slavery via the transatlantic slave trade, which we were cursed to go back into slavery on ships via the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, by the Most High for our ancestors not being obedient to his ways, laws, statutes, and commandments. Okay. So once we get past that, no, and I mean, look, I don't begrudge him. That's how he feel. That's how he feel. A lot of our people feel the same way, but I'm breaking down why they feel like that. As a matter of fact, that one African sister, man, her name is in group. What's her name? She played in Black Panther. She's real popular. Anyway, she turned down being in the movie about the so-called African warrior queen. What do you call them? Oh gosh. Um, the warrior queen or something, whatever the name of the movie is or whatever, that she turned the role down because what was really kind of glossed over in that movie is that nation were huge and in capturing a lot of our people and turning them into slavery, right? And she wasn't feeling that. Okay, see what y'all have to also understand, and I'm gonna break it down thoroughly, man. So after this video, there will be no doubt of what it is, right? Like what's true is that Africa, especially back then, first of all, Africa is a continent. It's not a nation. All right, there's really no such thing technically as someone being quote unquote African because that's not a nation. Africa does not represent nationhood. It's like you are from whatever nation you are from in Africa or whatever, but Africa, even though they're considered called African, is not really a nation. Africa is a continent that houses several dark nations. All right, y'all following me? So once we establish and understand that all these different continents, it was very tribal back in Africa. And what I mean by that is that basically, if you weren't from the same tribe or someone else, they couldn't care less about you. You understand what I'm saying? They would do whatever they could to kind of, to subjugate you, capture you, put you in slavery, whatever they had to do. Because basically, if you wasn't from their tribe, it was F you. Basically, that's how it was. And to an extent, it's like that a lot today, even. It's very tribal in Africa. Now, what it is that when we were scattered into all these different nations as the children of Israel, okay, we kind of took on a lot of the ways and cultures of the heathen because the Most High said this was going to happen to our people when we got cursed and scattered out of Israel. So you have a lot of our people, Negroes, mixed into these Hamitic tribes, right? And he said he said basically, y'all don't want to listen to me, y'all don't want to praise me and this and that. Well, I'm gonna scatter y'all among all people, among all the heathens. Y'all can go in there and worship all these different crazy gods, and y'all can do y'all thing. And that's exactly what's going on, right? We're mixed in with these Hamitic tribes in Africa. We're scattered, right? When he says all people, I take that to mean virtually every nation on earth. So when you understand and know that how tribal Africa always was, okay, let's put the romanticizing aside. Okay, all this black power, brother, and Africa and Mother Africa and all this and that. Man, listen, man, that's a fantasy. Okay, the reality is Africans never seen each other as each other's brothers. Okay, that's something that African Americans kind of dreamed up, just fantasizing about. Because why? Because we didn't know who we really were. So we fantasized that, oh, we were great African kings and queens and we all loved each other and it was black power and African. And listen, man, I'm not trying to be the bearer of bad news or rain on anyone's parade, my black people, but that was a bunch of foolishness. Africa was never about no one love and no one this and we all this and we all that. No, Africa was always very tribal. Our people were no different. Okay, white folks coming into slavery. I don't care if they were the Dutch, the British, whoever came up into Africa. They didn't know the jungles of Africa. They didn't know nothing about Africa. How do you think they maneuvered around different, in the forest and in the jungle and all this and that? They had other Africans helping them. Matter of fact, many of our people were already captured, and all it basically had to do was pay them the money, and the transaction was complete. We was on our way doing the transatlantic slave trade. That's the harsh reality. The harsh reality is those people, many of those Hamitic Africans, had a huge hand in selling our people. When I say our people, the African Americans / Negroes / Bantu / E1B1A into slavery. They never liked us. They didn't like us then. They don't like us now. And let me take it back even further. All right, because I'm going to break this down for y'all so y'all really understand, man. I'm not even trying to play with this. and trying to gloss nothing over. Let's go way back before the transatlantic. Let's go way back to the land of Canaan, ancient Canaan, which is now known as Israel. Okay, ancient Canaan was the land promised from the Most High to the seed of Isaac and Jacob, which was the chosen seed, which is who his covenant was through, Canaan. So, what a lot of people don't know is that the so-called Hamitic Africans dwelled in the land of Canaan. But guess what? They had to raise up. Why? Because that land was promised to the Israelites or the seeds of Jacob. So that's how you get the battle of Jericho, and Joshua they had to raise them up out of there. And do you know, like literally, that what I just told y'all, a lot of Hamitic Africans know that story. A lot of Hamitic Africans still lay claims to Israel to this day because they feel that was their land and they were unrightfully, kicked off the land by the Israelites. So they had beef with us since way back when. And just because y'all don't know that we're Israelites has no bearing on the fact that they know who we are and they still have a grudge behind that. Okay, because we dwelled in that land where we kicked them off. They were the original Canaanites. That's where they dwell. And everything I'm telling y'all can fact check this. Okay, y'all can everything that I'm saying. Don't take my word as law. But I've been doing this for 8 years now. What I'm telling y'all, like I said, I don't need no book for this. I'm coming from my belly. I'm coming from within. Okay, that animosity from Africans goes way back to when we dwelled in the land of Canaan. When we took that land over as Israelite, our people took that land over, and just because we don't know, like I said, who we are, many of them do. They know that we're the Israelites. They know that we're Yehuda. You all right? Or as the Arabs called us back then, Yahudi. They know who we are, man. They know where we're from. Judah. They know what it is. Right? So you have to dissect that and understand where the start of that animosity came from for many Hamitic Africans. Okay, we are all not the same. Okay, if you look at our physical features, and let's go there. Negroes and Hamitic Africans have completely different looking features. We do. The only thing we share is melon, right? Genesis 10 and 6 tells us who came from Ham, right? And it tells us that the Ethiopians, the Egyptians, the Libyans, and the Canaanites, which is what they were called because they dwelled there, which basically were the Hamitic Africans, they are the seeds of Ham. I love my brother, Lord Jamal, but we are not Nubians. There's nothing Nubian about it. Nubians, Nubian is Ham. Okay, now Genesis 10 and 6 gave us the bloodline of Ham, what I just told y'all. Now, what the Zondervan Compact Bible Dictionary did is it took Genesis 10 and 6 and took it to another level and gave us another caveat about the lineage of Ham. It said exactly what Genesis 10 and 6 said. It said, yeah, Ham became the progenitor of all the dark races of Africa, and it went on to list them: the Egyptians, the Ethiopians, the Libyans, and the Canaanites. But it said, not the Negroes. Ding, 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 ding. My people, that would be us. By grace and mercy of the Most High, I had researched and uncovered that the Negroes were the Bantus. Okay, that Bantu expansion that some of these DNA companies talk about was an Israelite expansion. Okay, me personally, I moved away from Hebrew. I don't need to put Hebrew with Israel. I'm an Israelite. I'm a seed of Jacob. Okay, we exist free and clear of any designation before or after that. If you're a seed of Jacob, you are an Israelite, period, point blank. So therein lies where the animosity started. The fact is that they had a huge hand in the enslavement of our people. They had a grudge going back for us since way back when, man. And I know a lot of y'all minds is blown right now listening to this. Okay, but y'all need to get away from this fantasy about Africa and black power fists and your little dashiki and all this and that. A lot of them folk don't care nothing about us, don't care nothing about you. And again, I don't want to appear to speak for all Hamitic Africans, okay? Because I would never do that, just as But I'm giving y'all the knowledge and the understanding of why that animosity still exists to this day. They know that we're different people. They know that we're not from the same bloodline. They know that we're not from the same nations as them. And just like back then when it was so tribal, And because we're not from their nation and their bloodline, they couldn't care less about us. That's why they never try to come over here and help us fight no wars or fight no no fight for civil rights or come and try to quote unquote get us. Please, we couldn't get up out of there fast enough for them. They helped ship us out into slavery. What y'all talking about? Y'all better stop this romantic fantasy stuff. You understand what I'm saying? No, but guess what? Let me end with this. I'm gonna end with this, man. If we are so-called Africans, right? And they say we're African American, right? We're from the continent of Africa. Well, if we so-called Africans, how come Africans have never done what we've done? How come Africans have never dominated stuff like we do? Negroes, that is, so-called African Americans. How come? I've never heard an African sing like Whitney Houston. I've never seen an African Jesse Owens. I've never seen an African Muhammad Ali or African Mike Tyson or an African. I can just go on and on and on about the things we've dominated as so-called African Americans that Africans never have. Why? Because we're different people from them. We're not the same. Okay, we are not the same. The really sad part about it is we don't know just how truly special we really are. We really are. Seriously. All right, so I'm going to end on that, man. I don't want to keep going on about it, but I want to give y'all some context as why, because we always used to say that Africans don't like us, Africans don't. This is why, man. A lot of them know the true history. They know that you're really Israelites. They know that way back in the land of Canaan where they dwelled, and Joshua got them up out of there. They still hold a grudge behind that and consider Israel theirs. Real talk. Google this. It's out there. Please believe it is. So anyway, on that note. Hopefully y'all, I did exactly what the lesson, started out to do, and y'all understand now why a lot of Africans feel the way that African gentleman did in that clip. A lot of them feel that way, but I gave you the context as to why they do. They know that we're not the same people. Negroes, so-called African Americans, we are not African. Okay, our true nation is Israel. All right, that's a genetic and a biblical fact. All right. On that note, it's Dr. Ephraim signing off, saying Shalom, Elect.